Yes, from automation, you're a fucking idiot as well. See ya.
Bitcoin Cash, BSV, like it's been mayhem with them. Let's start with BCash and this whole mining donation fee that they were potentially going to try and force in. What are your insights about that? Because I know I got some insights.
Wow, it wasn't a hard fork or even a soft fork. It was just 60, 70% of the hash power just decided they wanted to do this and was going to force the other remaining 30, 40% of the hash power to do it, and if they didn't have a transaction that gave, 12.5% of the rewards to this certain address, then they were going to orphan that block, so oh my God, talk about centralization, and the way that, it all came about, how they just decided it's for everybody. And then it kind of got canceled, with Roger just making a statement that he's pulling out of this project, which basically canceled it. That's centralization.
The halving can kind of, like what we saw with Litecoin, hash and power drops, the price drops, miners weren't getting as much, they weren't earning as much. If that happened with BCash, and if they are predicting that was going to happen with BCash, do you think that's another motivational reason why they want to enforce this donation fee?
I think it might be part of it, but the main reason was for the developers. The developers don't want to work on this without getting compensated, and so this 12.5% was going to a fund to pay the developers directly.
Yeah. In Hong Kong, was it?
There was, but there was a tweet or article that I should have looked this up before the show so I could show it to everybody. But it was released that a developer said, BCash is fine the way it is and can continue on, but the development in it so far it's really been not much, and to really do more we're going to need compensation. They're going to need to get paid, and so that's what it's about, at least the majority of it.
There's been a few articles about that where they've basically been strapped for cash, and it's interesting because Bitcoin BTC has never needed anything like that. If people wanted to contribute to the ecosystem, they've donated to a project that they like about it, or they've built something themselves with it, right? They haven't been taxed. So it's an interesting thing. I know, like, the BCash community has kind of turned back on this. Like, this is, like, Roger's kind of opted out of it. But also as well, you've got BSV, which that 100% rally it had a few weeks ago is all on the kind of fact that Craig was supposed to have the keys to this Tulip Trust, and it's like BSV in itself exists on the kind of assumption that Craig is Satoshi, when there's been no real evidence that he is. I mean, what's your take on all that? Because that's like, it's like trying to climb on hot air. There's like nothing to climb on. Like when it hits the fan, it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, well, Craig's not Satoshi, number one. Okay, so he may have been mining from early days.
Sure.
He obviously doesn't have control of the Bitcoins he says he does, and this is why they're doing this hard fork. What is it, next week or in 2 weeks? Yeah, which is going to allow BSV to get to the coins that haven't moved since before BCash. So he's basically going to scoop up all these coins and then say, see, look, I got the private keys to all these coins from the early blocks. I am Satoshi. Well, no, you have them on BSV. Anybody could fork that and do the same thing. That doesn't mean you're Satoshi. But, boy, when he announced that, the price sure did go up on BSV, because all their followers just buy into this garbage. And it's amazing. It's, Wall Street has a phrase for people who invest and don't do their due diligence, don't do the research about what they're investing in. And so they call this dumb money. So in crypto, in BSV, and BCH, there's a lot of dumb money. But the other comment you made about, Bitcoin developers never wanting, compensation. This is open source. Bitcoin wasn't the start of open source software. A lot of people into Bitcoin have never heard about this system before. But this open source has been going on for decades, right?
Yes, yes.
And so it is a history with open source software that people donate their time. And the better projects attract the better people, the more knowledgeable, the better programmers, the better developers. So this is how it's always been. And for one project in open source to then try to tax the people within it to pay the developers is so centralized. It's so corporate, right? And that's the exact opposite of what Bitcoin's about.
I agree.
I mean, I've been, ever since 2017. In fact, I have a presentation that I did at my meetup in, I think it was October in 2017, that shows how increasing the block size doesn't scale. It's not a good way to scale. It's a terrible way to scale because of all the side effects that bigger blocks have. People always think, oh yeah, we just need bigger blocks. Yeah, that'll give us more transactions per second. Everything's all good. No, you have to look at what that changes down the road and in other parts of the software. How does that, things that could affect. And, so it affects propagation time and it affects the overall block size, of the whole block, not the block size, but the blockchain size, right? The whole blockchain. And so you always want to keep your blockchain as small as possible, because of the IBD, the initial block download. You don't want to get in a position like Ethereum where their blockchain is so huge that you cannot spin up a new node. You will never be able to, download from the Genesis block to the current block. It's just impossible. Yeah. And that's because their blockchain is too big, and not the block size, the whole blockchain. So people don't think about this stuff. They think, oh, bigger blocks, more transactions per second, all's good. No, it's not all good. And so in this presentation, it's like 30, 40 minutes for me to go through it, but I can speed it up. I could do it in like 5 minutes if you want me to go through it. But BSV basically proves my point from this presentation that bigger blocks don't scale because BSV, I guess, now has a 128 megabyte block limit. And when they first switched to that, they actually had a block that was 60 megs in size. And that 60 meg block took 40 minutes to propagate, okay? So with blocks coming in every 10 minutes, how could you have propagation time 40 minutes? Hello, McFly. Do we see a problem here? Or do people need to go back to the fourth grade? Because this is just simple fourth grade math. It's just applying fourth grade math to how a blockchain works on the surface, not really getting in too deep. So you don't have to know calculus, you don't have to know cryptography, you don't have to know algebra, fourth grade math, and you can understand that you cannot scale with bigger blocks. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I know. So I know you've got some information about Dash as well. So give us the lowdown on what's going on with Dash.
Okay, so are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so as you know, or hopefully people watching this know that we did a show, what was it, a couple months ago on, we called it the Dash Deep Dive.
Yeah.
And so we went really deep back to Dash beginnings, all the shady things that happened in Dash. And
I shared it in their Reddit as well.
Yep, and so if anybody has not seen that and you're interested in Dash and how shady it's been from the very beginning, you need to go watch that episode. But this is just adds to the this is another nail in the coffin of Dash, in my opinion. So this is by George Donnelly, who is a major, or used to be a major person in Dash. He's out of Colombia, and he's done all this stuff for Dash. He did 1,600 and or 1,160. He got 1,160 merchants to accept Dash in 8 different countries. He did 500 himself in Colombia. He's done 159 Dash events. He's done the #1 largest Dash meetup in the world. He's got, I mean, you could look through here yourself.
Remember that Dash was getting, they were popping up with some things over in South America, like Colombia, Venezuela and stuff. And then it suddenly stopped.
Yes. Well, this guy, he was doing, as far as I could tell, very good work for Dash. I mean, he's a believer in Dash. Maybe he doesn't know about all the shady stuff from the beginning. Maybe he should go watch our Dash deep dive. But in any case, this guy was majorly into Dash, and all he did was promote Dash. It seems like he devoted a large portion of his life to supporting Dash.
Okay.
Until he sent some of his people to Venezuela to check on Venezuela, because there was a Venezuelan Dash group that said that they signed up 2,500 merchants in Venezuela, right? Okay. So he went over there, or sent people over there to check it out. Well, they could only find less than 900, not 2,500, less than 900. So the honest person that, what's this guy's name? George is. So George, made it public saying, hey, these guys didn't sign up 2,500, it's less than 900. Mm. And so instead of saying, oh no, it's 2,500, here's a list. Here's the phone numbers you can call each merchant, ask them, because if I was in California signing up merchants to accept Dash, I would keep a list, right? Wow. Everyone I sent up with the phone number to the place. And if anyone wanted to verify it, because what's Bitcoin all about? Don't trust, verify, right? So I would be able to back up what I've done with actual data that people could follow up on. But instead of telling him, no, you're mistaken, there's really 25, here's the list, here's the phone numbers, call them yourself, they just, attacked him, calling him a liar and a scammer and what have you. And I guess in the past, he's had many contracts. Dash has this voting system where you can apply for Dash money, because they tax their miners.
Yeah, it's like a sort of Dash development fund or something. Yeah,
right. And they have like the Dash treasury. And so you can apply to get money from that by doing different Dash projects. And he's done this George guy. And he was currently under a 3-month contract, and they canceled it on him. And they were like, it was 1 month in and they canceled it on him.
Flipping out.
And so you take all that shady stuff from the beginning, go watch Dash Deep Dive, and you could just tack this on the back of it.
All the way in Venezuela. That's the thing, right? Because no one really knows what's going on there. That they could have been doing what they were doing as what they wanted, and that's like funds to help the development of the whole Dash community. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that actually happened, because I knew things got a bit derailed with Dash in South America, noticeably Venezuela, but I didn't know that was the actual reason. So that's interesting.
There was lots of signs of this, because Dash was putting out like all the extra Dash transactions that are in Venezuela, and everybody's using Dash in Venezuela, and all this propaganda was going out. But when people like Adam Eister would do a show and actually brought guests in from Venezuela, they're like, no, we're not seeing this down here. No, not at all. I don't know where you're getting these numbers from. It doesn't seem like that at all. Now, Dash has been known to do events down there where they give away, $5, $10 worth of Dash for free for everybody that shows up at the event. And now $5, $10 worth of Dash, 10 American dollars worth of Dash, I think like the monthly minimum wage in Venezuela is like 10 or
It's $6.
$6 a month.
Yeah, and also Maduro's regime has inflated the dollar over there as well. So not only is the local currency there inflated to fucking hell, but the dollar is extremely inflated there. Like, so you have no purchasing power. So even if you live there and you're like, oh, I'm gonna just earn in dollars or pound or euro, nah. Maduro is basically like, no one is having any wealth. Only way you can really avoid inflation there, Bitcoin, gold, or silver.
Yeah,
That's
on
it.
one of these shows, the guy was talking about the inflation of the Venezuela dollar, the bolivar, and he would say that when they would go, him and his buddies would go to a bar to drink, and they were planning on having 4 or 5 beers, they would go there and order 4 or 5 beers, right? And order them and pay for them all at once, because if they went and got 1 beer and then drank it, and then go to get the next one, the price had gone up.
Jeez.
Right? That's how crazy the inflation is there.
Yeah.
And so, I think a Bitcoin is like hundreds of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of bolivar.
I mean, it's sky high. I mean, they have their wealth is being drained so much. I've watched documentaries on it as well, and it's just failed. That's that place. And then they have so much oil. That's the thing. Their second biggest city has the biggest lake in all of South America, Latin America.
Yeah, but there's a caveat to that.
Okay.
That's not, the light sweet crude oil, right?
I know there are technicalities to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy to pump that stuff out of the ground. It's very hard. It's very technical.
The infrastructure is destroyed there. It's fucked. Yeah.
And so it's not easy to get that out. In fact, they're having problems doing it. They need outside help to do it. But with, the sanctions and everything, I guess they're having problems doing that.
Yeah. It's messy. It's real messy. Not good. I mean, socialism, right? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. But yeah, it's crazy how, Dash, those funds that are there to help Dash, help the Dash community, and they were being totally kiboshed and shafted under their noses. Don't trust, verify.
Well, who did more for Dash than George Donnelly? That's what I want to know. This guy, reading his bio, what he did for Dash. I mean, this guy was a major Dash guy, and for them to just turn on him, that's incredible. That just shows you what Dash is all about, how centralized it is, and how corrupt it is. When instead of just proving that they did have 2,500, they just attacked them. And you might want to talk about Peter Schiff today.
Yes.
Just touch on him a bit.
Yeah. Yes.
So, he's always being very negative about him. He's always been very negative about Bitcoin. And I do have a tweet to show where he talked about, his Bitcoin wallet getting corrupt.
Right.
But since we're on price here.
The first thing.
Yeah, which was totally his fault, but he just blames Bitcoin. But we could talk about that in a minute. But as far as the price goes, gold is up 4%, so that's pretty good. But Bitcoin kicked its butt at 33%, although gold did do better than the Dow Jones. So I wanted to have this tweet go back to 2011 when Peter found out about Bitcoin, and you only have so much room, so many characters you could deal with in a tweet. So I just bounced every 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So the next sample I took was January 1st, 2017. From that point, the Dow Jones is up 45%, which kicks gold's butt at 36%, but Bitcoin is up 853%. So you go another 3 years back and you go to 2014, Dow Jones is up 76% from there. Gold is up 29%. Bitcoin is up 1,164%. So another 3 years will take us all the way back to January 2011 was the year Peter found out about Bitcoin, and it's been bad-mouthing it ever since, right? So Dow Jones is up 147% since then. Gold is up 11%. Bitcoin is up 3,177,400%. 566%. So I understand, Peter, that your gold is very old and trustworthy and has withstood the test of time for hundreds, thousands of years even. But nobody is suggesting that he should sell all of his gold and buy Bitcoin, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
with this kind of track history, for him not to admit that somebody might want to think about taking their long-term savings, whether it's in the stock market or gold or silver or combination of everything above, and not put 1%, 2%, 3% in Bitcoin, I think is irresponsible. Because with that small amount in it, even if Bitcoin went to zero tomorrow, it's not going to kill you. It's not going to really, affect your total portfolio if you're only in at 1%, 2%, 3%. But to miss out on these type of mad gains by not going in 1%, 2%, 3%, at least not even seriously considering it, which is his take. He doesn't even think you should seriously consider it. I think is irresponsible.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he actually? I mean, people donated Bitcoin to him and stuff. It's like just to troll him and stuff. Do you think secretly he does have some Bitcoin holders, like a tiny percentage of his portfolio? Because I get it, like he trolls the Bitcoin community a lot, and I know he's trying to market his whole brand, and obviously the Bitcoin community on Twitter creates a lot of engagement, and I know he gets a lot of engagement, and his Twitter account ranks higher from Bitcoiners and cryptocurrency people trolling him back, taking the bait.
To me, that's pointless. If he's going to say he has zero, I mean, except for what he had in that wallet that Eric, what's his name? Eric Voorhees, right? Eric Voorhees set him up with the wallet. They were out to dinner to talk, or I guess they had a debate about, Bitcoin. And then afterwards they went out to dinner together. And during the dinner, he got a hold of Peter's cell phone and put the app on it, right, for a Bitcoin wallet. And that's when Peter picked out his password and picked out his PIN number. So then ever after that, to access his wallet, and then at that point, I guess Eric Voorhees gave him a little bit of Bitcoin, sent it to that wallet. And then I guess he made that address public where other people could donate to it. And people donated, as far as I understand, it was pretty small amount. But he had the password and he had the PIN number. Then every time after he accessed the wallet, the phone only asked him for the PIN number. So he forgot completely about ever putting in a password. He forgot about that. There's days, weeks, months later, right? So then his phone did an update. It either, I don't really know which it updated. Either updated the app or his OS of his phone updated, which got rid of the password. So now when he tries to bring up his wallet, it says input your password, and he was inputting his PIN number because that's all he's done since the day he got it, right? And so he forgot all about that password. But it's funny, I mean, here, since we're talking about now, I'll share my screen and show you the tweet and just how unfair he is towards it, right? Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so he says, I lost all my Bitcoin. I lost all the Bitcoin I ever owned. My wallet got corrupt somehow, and my password is no longer valid. He's totally wrong there. But notice what he did. He had, instead of trying to figure out what happened objectively, he's just blaming Bitcoin. He's just right off the bat, it's Bitcoin's fault. Now, if his wallet got corrupt, wouldn't that be, and it's on his phone, right? Wouldn't that be his phone's fault? That means his phone has faulty memory that got corrupt, right? It wouldn't even be Bitcoin's fault, but he's right away to jump and dive down the throat of Bitcoin like it's Bitcoin's fault, right? So, and then what was it? It was his own fault because he doesn't remember the password the password that he put in originally, and he forgot about that. Which is fine. I don't really blame him for that. But then now he starts putting the blame in his more recent tweets. Well, actually, what he should be putting the blame on, well, I think he's partially responsible because he should have done his due diligence. If you're going to hold something of value, you need to understand how you're holding it and how to access it and how it's backed up and everything. He didn't do that. But I do think some blame does go to blockchain, the blockchain wallet, because once you set up a wallet, you get all this stuff to sign into it, right? And then it tells you that you need to back it up, but it never mentions it ever again. So people say, oh yeah, I'll do that later, right? So if you never it's like 3 clicks to go to back it up. So if you never do those 3 clicks, like once a day or once a week, it should remind you. It should put a little flag up saying, okay, you never click to go back it up. You need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do this, like a warning every week. And if the blockchain wallet would have done that, I think that would have saved him. But again, that's not Bitcoin's fault, Peter. That's blockchain wallet. And blockchain is the worst wallet in Bitcoin. And they've always been the worst wallet. They're one of the biggest because they're early adopters and they just got a lot of people from the beginning, but it's definitely the worst wallet in Bitcoin. They've gone through many different types of backups over the years, and when they changed from one to the other, the previous way to back up became invalid. So if you didn't update your wallet, you're just SOL. And since January of 2017, the CEO of Blockchain Wallet said that they're ready for SegWit. They're SegWit compatible. They're just waiting for it to get in. And now here we are 4 years later, and they still don't support SegWit.
Still, every time I ask you, it's like, wow. It's like, because I don't use them either, because I don't go anywhere near blockchain.
Not only can you not create a SegWit address on Blockchain Wallet, you could not send to a SegWit native address. You cannot send to a BC1. I know this for a fact as of, I think it was like 3 weeks ago or something. It was pretty recent that a guy with a blockchain wallet was trying to send me funds, and it read my BC1 address and said it threw up an error. It said it's an illegal address, invalid address, something like that.
Yeah.
So you can't send or receive to a BC1, and you can't even receive to the SegWit address that starts with a 3. You can only receive to a legacy address, and this is 3 years after they said they're ready for it. But of course, this is all political, right? It's all because they receive funds from Barry Silbert, who is always trying to make Bitcoin look bad. That it's
remember when we showed that exchange, so showing faulty data.
Right, because that it was like a blockchain viewer that was using a node that hasn't updated their software in over 3 years, or 2.5 years, right? So they're showing the blocks as the older 2.5-year-old software sees them, which is 1 meg or less, when the blocks these days are actually bigger than a meg. And so that was what was that, blockchain? No, that was trade block.
The name.
Trade block. Yeah. So trade block receives funds from Barry Silbert, right? Almost all the projects that receive funds from him tend to delay or refuse to upgrade to SegWit. Another one is Mycelium. Now, Mycelium finally, after more than 2 years, finally adopted SegWit. But I got to give Mycelium credit, although they did it very late. They did it the best way ever. I love the way the Mycelium wallet works and the way it handles SegWit. You can actually pick from any of the 3 addresses to receive funds, and it's all in the same wallet. So it puts all the funds together. So that's how it should really work, in my opinion. But to not have SegWit support at this point, you're behind the times. You need to just not do anything with Bitcoin. You need to just go to BCash or something. I don't know. Just give it up, because you're running software that's 2.5 years old on a brand new asset in a brand new asset class. You got to keep up with the times.
It's true. It's true. I totally agree. Peter Schiff.
I still rather have my Bitcoin on a legacy address than on a BC address.
And that's fine if that's what you want.
It still scares me a little bit.
I don't know why, but that's fine if that's what you want. But you should have the option, right? Well, you should have the option.
I don't read as much as you guys do, and I see some things coming and some things going, and it's all scams and on top of scams, and you never know what's the right thing these days anymore. And even a Bitcoin fork could turn out. I know it's a soft fork kind of thing, but not everyone is this educated about the whole blockchain, how it works precisely, and it's hard to follow. So I rather stay on legacy because I know certain websites don't accept my BC address, and if I mix things up, maybe I lose them, and it scares me because a mistake is easily made, usually in the whole world and in the blockchain world. So.
Well, when you're sending, if you're sending to an exchange or something, and they give you a legacy address, you could send to a legacy from a SegWit wallet, whether it's has 3 addresses or BC1, right? It's not a limitation of the blockchain; it's a limitation of the wallet. Like it's only certain, very poorly designed, has not been kept up with the times for the past 2.5 years. Legacy wallet. Most legacy wallets will still send to either of the SegWit addresses. It's just really poor wallets like Blockchain Wallet. That one will not, because they're idiots over there and they refuse to update.
Because my problem was I was trying to send my Bitcoin to various website Bitcoin addresses, and that never worked because they didn't accept it. So now was, if they don't accept my BC address.
I don't understand that, because if your BC1 wallet will send to a legacy address, there's nothing they could do to stop a transaction, right? On their end, they're going to have to accept it. I mean, you will send the Bitcoin to that address.
My headset works terrible on my laptop.
But your mic's a little shaky also.
Yeah, guys, I'm gonna log off.
Mate.
You, man.
No worries, man. Thank you anyway, man. Yeah, take care, Andy. Catch up soon, man.
Yo.
Yeah, man.